One of my favorite things to do when consuming a new piece of media is analyzing what kinds of references and homages are included in that media. It gives me an insight into what a writer or director values in media and how they went about constructing their own work. But the use of homage can be even more impactful. A good homage is one that not only makes it clear what the homage is referencing, but also applies that homage in a way that's fitting for the work being written. One of the most famous examples of this is the opening title crawl from Star Wars, which pays homage to the Flash Gordon serials of the 1930s. It's a very striking technique, but the meaning that it conveys might be a bit obtuse for most of us since there are very few people alive today who grew up with the original Flash Gordon. However, if you strip away all the specific details of each work and realize that George Lucas used an homage to a high-flying space opera action-adventure franchise with enticing fantasy elements to open his own high-flying space opera action-adventure franchise with enticing fantasy elements, then you can start to see why a Flash Gordon reference has much more meaning than simply saying it's a Flash Gordon reference. By putting the idea of Flash Gordon in the audience's head right at the start of the film, those who were familiar with the franchise will immediately have a subconscious idea of what they can expect from Star Wars. In turn, after becoming the massive cultural icon that it is today, Star Wars is now the one that other works are paying homage to, be it exhilarating action sequences with similar design elements, or a single quote whose popularity is so inescapable that its meaning is immediately resonant.
No, Buzz. I am your father.
But I'm not here to talk about Star Wars, I'm here to talk about anime. And one of my favorite moments of homage from the past year of anime comes from episode 8 of last fall's Gainax-esque fever dream fantasy, Flip Flappers. If you haven't had a chance to see it yet, I won't be spoiling any major plot details aside from vague descriptions of thematic character development, though I do highly recommend that you check it out soon, as it is one of my favorite anime of last year. In episode 8, the two main characters, Kokona and Papika, must find a certain item in an ever-changing fantasy dimension, which in this episode has taken on the appearance of an expansive and futuristic cityscape being attacked by monsters. By the time the second half rolls around, a giant monster is stomping around the city and destroying everything in its path, and our two leads must pilot a set of combining mech suits in order to defeat it. Much like in the episodes prior to this one, Flip Flappers takes advantage of its episodic nature to explore interesting ideas and use the visual cues of past works to give the viewer a starting point on where to begin the exploration of these ideas. And episode 8 is very clearly paying homage to one of the staples of the early anime industry, the super robot genre of the late 1960s and early 1970s, with the actual mech itself bearing resemblance to the titular mech of the 1974 classic, Getter Robo. On the surface level, an homage to the super robot genre is a great way to set the tone that the series is going for at this point, in that the super robot genre is inherently fun, exciting, and jam-packed with action, which is exactly what happens in this episode. As cool as it is to see an homage to super robots in a mid-2010s fantasy series, it's not nearly as cool as the second homage lurking under the surface, embedded not in the design or tone, but in the characters. And this time we're hopping on over to the second branch of the mecha genre, Real Robot. This comes in the form of the main character, Kokona, who has been struggling with defining her purpose in life and who she is at a deeper, more intimate level. This struggle with identity is the kind of character arc that sits at the very core of the Real Robot genre, from Gundam to Gunbuster to Evangelion to Gurren Lagann, the last of which is itself a masterwork of homage covering the entirety of mecha history up to its release in 2007. By having this type of character arc in an episode focused on a giant robot fight, the connection between Kokona and past Real Robot protagonists, particularly those of Gainax origin, is solidified, and this dual-layer homage resonates not just with Super Robot fans, but Real Robot fans as well. In essence, Flip Flappers is doing something similar to Gurren Lagann, but on a much smaller scale, and that's one of the things I love so much about this episode. It captures the excitement and adrenaline of Super Robot and crafts a scenario around a character that would be right at home home in Real Robot, combining what are arguably the best parts of each subgenre. All of this leads me to reiterate my point that I made in my Best of 2016 video series, where I mentioned that episode 8 of Flip Flappers was one of the most impactful and captivating episodes of anime I had seen from any show that aired last year. This episode and several others throughout the series demonstrate just how powerful a perfectly crafted homage can be in adding to the meaning and purpose of an anime, and I hope more writers and directors make use of this kind of storytelling in the future. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Now that I finally have this video out after sitting on this script forever, I'm going to try and at least have some kind of consistent upload schedule, so stay tuned for more videos. Be sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date on all my latest content, and don't forget to follow me on Facebook and Twitter. My name is Ember, and I'll see you next time.